Let's talk about health and human services and receiving a major makeover. About time. Back in the 60s, the world looked to America's health regulators for guidance because they had a reputation for integrity, scientific impartiality, and a strong defense of patient welfare. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing. And today, and for probably the last couple of decades, the HHS has lost trust among many people. And I don't know if I'd go back the last couple of decades. I really am going to go back to COVID. I think COVID created a lot of question marks for people. I think the vaccinations within COVID created a lot of question marks within people. And now we're kind of seeing the shakeout of people that are making it more political and being like, you are just an anti-vaxxer. And, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's just kind of look at things. And I think that is kind of where we need to have trust come back in is, follow the science.
I do remember before COVID. I'm a little bit older than you, so I do remember before COVID that there was some concerns, but COVID really magnified it. It really brought to the surface. Wait a minute, you're going to force me to get this vaccination? I don't
force me to wear a mask.
Yes, force me to do 6 foot. And it's so funny how a lot of these come out like, oh, well, the 6 foot thing didn't really help at all. This week, a major shakeup, and this is about time. The Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, known as ACIP, is retiring. All 17 of the current members on the committee. I love seeing that, like just clean house.
Yeah, and I think it's, again, this is maybe a little bit more political than investment related, but I would personally love, I know RFK, who's head of the HHS, has now appointed 8 new members. Of course, the media is saying they're anti-vaxxers, essentially, along with his agenda. I personally would love to see, 8 members that are maybe anti-vax, so to speak, and 8 members that are pro-vaccine. So then you have this, like, back and forth about, like, what is actually best for the country. And you have to present your data and come to a conclusion that is, kind of agreed upon by laying out all the facts from both sides. But that probably won't happen, That's just my viewpoint, I guess.
I mean, hopefully on the committee, there's people that, want to look at the data to make a decision, not be an anti-vax or a vax or whatever you want to call it, but actually look at the data. Because the reason why it's so important is that we hold in our portfolio medical companies, drug companies. I mean, this is why this is so important to understand the fundamentals of what's going on. When you're investing, you can't just look at the stock price. You got to look at so many other factors. That's why we brought up, this about the health and human services, because it's going to affect some of our companies.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that we look at too is in the past, the committee had many like persistent conflicts of interest and approved this just blew my mind. They approved every vaccine that came through. Not one had question marks. Not one was bad. I mean, it's kind of interesting. And also the committee met behind closed doors and without transparency. So the public had no faith in their decisions. And part of me is like, gosh, remember how the Federal Reserve used to not really say anything? They would just do it. And now the Federal Reserve, it's like, gosh, there's a board member talking, it feels like every single day about what's going on with rates. It'd be interesting to see if we get more transparency into other areas of the government. And I know the Federal Reserve is independent, but, I'd still consider them part of the government. It'd be great to get a little bit more transparency, I guess, on some other areas.
And Chase, gets even worse. Some of the members had financial stakes or received substantial funding from the pharmaceutical companies. Like, that is so biased that, okay, so if I got a financial stake in your company, all right, we'll get you approved. I mean, it's just that good old boy network, that just doesn't work. So I'm glad to see that that's going to be gone. They should have many times in companies, you can't hold certain stocks because there'd be a bias to it. Well, I think these guys on this committee, they should have no healthcare companies, no pharmaceuticals, nothing, no stake to them at all.
Yeah, how is it right that maybe you have a stake in, and I don't know their exact holdings, but let's say you do hold a stake in Merck, and it's like, ooh, they're up for a new vaccine. Let's see, if I don't allow this, that could plummet the stock 10%. Yeah, I don't know if that makes much sense to me. But I guess the positive here is there are changes occurring, and hopefully they are for the best. And, I think good science is very important. So hopefully this does improve the threshold for strong vaccines, strong medical systems, strong, healthcare in this country. I mean, that should be the ultimate goal.
Yep. And this could have an impact on some pharmaceutical stocks if vaccines go through a more rigorous approval process. And that's why we talk about it, because if you have medical companies in your portfolio, you understand what's going on.
Yeah, so I think it could be beneficial. I mean, instead of having maybe more competitors, it's going to be the best that truly survive.